There's an ancient text that holds some of the most profound, poetic insights into the biggest questions we can ask. Questions about the creation of the universe, the very essence of life, and our relationship with, well, the great unknown. Today, we're going to dive into one of humanity's oldest spiritual documents, the Atharvaveda. So, this is our guide for today, the Atharvaveda Samhita itself. We're going to be exploring hymns taken directly from these pages. And believe me, this is so much more than just a collection of old chants. It's really a window into how people thousands of years ago grappled with the biggest questions of existence using absolutely powerful poetry and philosophy.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We'll start with a quick intro to the Atharvaveda. Then we'll get into its really fascinating take on the secret of creation. After that, we'll look at this amazing concept of prana, the universal life force. From there, we'll check out the hymns praising the powerful deity Rudra. And to wrap it all up, we'll think about what this ancient wisdom might actually mean for us today.
Okay, let's start with the basics. What exactly is the Atharvaveda? Well, it's the fourth of the foundational sacred texts of Hinduism, the Vedas. And it's fascinating because it's this unique mix of deep philosophical hymns, spells, and prayers for just everyday life.
Now, before we go any further, there's one key term you gotta know, sukta. You're gonna hear it a few times. A sukta is basically a hymn. It's a collection of verses that are all focused on a single idea. That idea could be a god, a philosophical concept, or even a ritual. Just think of them as the individual chapters or poems that make up this whole incredible text. All right, now that we understand the building blocks, the suktas, let's see how they're used to tackle, well, the biggest topic of all, the secret of creation itself. The Atharvaveda comes at this question in such a unique way. It asks us to think about something pretty profound. How can an ordinary meal, something you'd make in a kitchen, possibly symbolize the entire vast cosmos? And the answer is found in this absolutely stunning piece of poetry called the Adana Sukta. Now, Adana is just a simple cooked rice porridge, often used as a sacred offering. But here, the Veda does something totally brilliant. It uses this very familiar act of cooking to explain something utterly mind-bending. This simple offering becomes a complete miniature model of the entire universe.
And this is where the symbolism just unfolds beautifully. The cooking pot itself, that's the earth. And the lid covering it, that's heaven. The sun and moon become the universe's two eyes watching over everything. The changing seasons are its mouth, consuming and transforming. And the water that gives it life, its essence, symbolizes the vast primordial ocean. It's this incredible poetic leap that connects the most humble, everyday act to the magnificent scale of the cosmos.
So from the massive scale of the cosmos, the Atharvaveda zooms right in. It shifts its focus from the container of life to the actual energy that powers it all, the life force known as prana. And yep, you guessed it, just like creation has its hymn, so does life itself. This is the Prana Sukta. But we need to be really clear. This is not about the simple physical act of breathing. It's a deep, profound meditation on the universal life force, that energy that flows through every single thing in existence. This verse from the text really says it all, doesn't it? Salutations to Prana, who has dominion over this whole world, who is the Lord of all, on whom all is based. So here's the key takeaway. Prana isn't simply in the world is in prana. It's the absolute foundation of reality itself. To really get this, it helps to put prana and our own breath side by side. On the one hand, you have breath. It's a physical process, it's happening right now, and it keeps us alive. Simple enough. But then you have prana. It's infinitely bigger. It's the fundamental life force that animates everything, from a tiny insect to a giant star, across all of time, past, present, and future. Our breath is just one tiny, tiny expression of prana, but prana itself is the source of all expression.
All right, so we've looked at the cosmos, and we've explored life itself. Now let's dig into how the Atharvaveda sees the relationship between humanity and the divine through these powerful hymns dedicated to the god Rudra.
So the Rudra Sukta has a totally different tone, a different vibe from what we've seen so far. Rudra is shown as powerful, wild, and honestly sometimes pretty fearsome. He really represents the untamable forces of nature, things that can be both destructive and purifying. In fact, in this ancient, fierce idea of Rudra, many people see the early seeds of the deity who would later evolve into the great god Shiva. And these hymns are just filled with awe, with respect, and often with a desperate plea for mercy. What's really fascinating here is the clear, almost psychological structure for how you're supposed to approach such a mighty force. First, the hymns always acknowledge Rudra's immense power. They give salutations to him in all his different forms. Second, they humbly ask for mercy, praying that he'll turn away his destructive anger. And third, only after showing that respect and humility do they ask for protection for their families, their animals, and their communities. It's a very human way of dealing with something so much bigger than yourself.
So we've gone on quite a journey, from the cosmic to the personal, from creation to the divine. But what does all of this ancient poetry and philosophy really mean for us, right now, in our world?
You know, when you strip it all down, the Atharvaveda is exploring questions that are fundamentally human and completely timeless. What is the nature of creation? What's that invisible force that gives us life and consciousness? How do we relate to the powerful mysteries of the universe? And maybe the biggest one of all, where do we find our own place in this massive, interconnected cosmos?
I mean, think about it. Our technology has changed completely. Our world looks totally different. But our core questions about existence, they're exactly the same. The Atharvaveda reminds us that thousands of years ago, people looked at a simple bowl of rice and saw the entire cosmos. They felt the breath in their lungs and understood a universal life force. Maybe the most profound wisdom it offers us is just this. The search for meaning isn't ancient or modern. It's just human.